الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله الناصح الأمين اللهم صل على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين ثم أما بعد الحمد لله this will be the first class going over a tremendously important book. It is a book that many of us, if not all of us, are familiar with, have read from it before, and have studied from it. Walillahi alhamd. Very important topic, very important issues that are mentioned therein. And that is the book of the explanation of the important lessons. Sharh الدروس المهمة لعامة الأمة. And we will be studying from the explanation of the Fadilat al-Shaykh Abdul Razak bin Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad al-Badr حفظهم الله تعالى. Sheikh Abdul Razak ibn Sheikh Abdul Muhsin. Sheikh Abdul Razak, he is the son of Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad al-Badr. May Allah Ta'ala preserve both of them. We would like to begin, where the Sharih, where the explainer, Sheikh Abdul Razak, he began, as this book is actually a transcription of classes that the Shaykh he delivered inside of the Masjid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inside of the Prophet's Masjid in Al-Madinah. The Shaykh Abdul Razak, he begins by saying, Alhamdulillah Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh sallallahu wa sallam alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Sheikh Abdul Razak hafidhahullah ta'ala, he begins by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and testifying that nothing has the right to be worshipped in truth except for Allah alone without any partners, and testifying that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave and his messenger, and sending the salah wa salam upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon his household and upon his companions, all of them. He goes on and he says, to proceed, أما بعد, to proceed. He says, فإن كتاب الدروس المهمة لعامة الأمة. He said, verily the book that, and it has been translated as the important lessons for the general masses of the ummah. The important lessons for the general masses of the ummah. مؤلف قيم. Verily it is a work that is upright. It is a work that is upright. It is good, excellent, and outstanding. في موضوع غاية في الأهمية, in affairs that are of extreme importance. With affairs that are of extreme importance, topics that are extremely important, that all the Muslims they know. And it is authored by the Imam, by an Imam, the Imam Alam by an imam of the dunya, a sign, wa shaykhin nasihin. He is a shaykh, an advisor, murabbin, mushfiqin. He is one who used to rear the people, a true educator, and one who was very compassionate for the people. ألا وهو الإمام العلامة عبد العزيز بن عبد الله بن باز رحمه الله تعالى. He said, and he is none other than the Imam, the great outstanding scholar, Sheikh Abdul Aziz bin Abdullah bin Baz, may Allah have mercy upon him. This great Imam Abdul Aziz bin Baz, rahmatullah alayh, he wrote this tremendous book. Yani katabahu, he wrote this book nushan li'amat al-ummah. He wrote this book as advice to the general masses of the ummah. Naam. He wrote this book as advice for the general masses of the ummah, the everyday Muslim. Naam, all the Muslims, common Muslims. The Shaykh, he goes on and he says that كتبه نصحا لعامة الأمة فيما ينبغي أن يتعلموه من أمور الدين. He wrote it for the general masses of the ummah, dealing with those affairs that they have to know about them from the affairs of the religion, dealing with those things that they have to know about from the affairs of the religion. Aqidatan, ibadatan, khuluqan, those things that are related to their aqidah, their creed, their belief, those things that are related to their ibadah, and those things that are related to their khuluq, to their character, their mannerisms, their morals, their behavior. Now, which here, one of the things we can draw from this is to show that the da'wah is not a da'wah that is isolated and just speaks about one thing and not other things. Now, because you have from the people of misguidance those who try to paint that picture that Ahlul Sunnah only speak about one thing. Okay? And this is not correct. This is a lie and a fabrication, and we know this. We know this. But they do this from the standpoint of propaganda so as to chase people away and to repel people from Ahlul Sunnah. So they make it seem as if Ahlul Sunnah is short-sighted. The Ahlul Sunnah, they only speak about this and they don't speak about that. But when one looks at this very small book, it's small in size, the actual metan, the actual text itself is small in size, but he finds that within it there are a number of subjects that are mentioned. A number of categories are spoken about and discussed. And from those categories which are spoken about, then we have the aqidah, the creed. Naam. Ibadah, worship. And khuluq, character. Naam, character. And as we go on, this will become more and more apparent to us. Naam, this will become more and more apparent to us. But this shows you that one, Ahlul Sunnah, they are not just focused in on one thing to the detriment of others. No. This does not mean, however, that there's not a prioritization as relates to da'wah, because there is a prioritization as relates to the da'wah. That is true. Na'am. And because the most important affair of the da'wah, then of course is tawheed. This is where we start. This is where all the messengers, they started with, and that was at tawheed. Right? However, other things are mentioned. This is one. Two, it's important that we know and that we recognize that not only are other things mentioned, but these things are within themselves interconnected. They're interconnected. Now, so an individual, when he comes to the aspect or he comes to the subject of worship, that is not devoid of tawheed. That's not devoid of tawheed, because it is not sufficient to just believe that nothing has the right to be worshipped in truth except Allah. it's not sufficient just to believe that, but from that which is necessitated by the belief in the shahada of La ilaha illallah is that what? Is that we actually worship Allah. Not just that we acknowledge that none have the right to be worshipped save Him, save He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but then we must also what? Worship Allah alone. We have to worship Allah alone. And worshipping Allah, then this deals with what? With ibadah. Na'am. So when a person is, for example, making salah, making hajj, learning about the rules and regulations of hajj and of umrah and of zakah and of fasting of Ramadan and of the salah prayer, yani, and so on and so forth, in all of its babs, yani, from wudu to the end of it, right? That is what? Because he is, yani, wants to practice and he wants to put into action, na'am, the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correctly. So this is connected to Tawheed. This is not something that is separate from it, Tawheed. Likewise, when it comes to khuluq, character. Now, when it comes to character, acting in a good way, having good manners, being good, yani, to the parents, being good to the neighbors, giving to everyone who has a right their rights, being good to animals, giving the animals their rights. What is the motivating factor for the believer as relates to these things? What is the motivating factor for the believer as relates to giving everyone from the creation who has a right their rights? Is what? Is their fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore you find what is not disconnected from it, Tawheed. Because if an individual does not give to Allah His rights, then how we expect that individual to establish the rights to others? Right? But when a person is conscious about giving to Allah His rights and as worshipping Him and Him alone, believing in Him, so on and so forth, when a person is conscious about giving Allah His rights, then he will be conscious about what? Giving the rights to the creation. When he's conscious about giving his rights to the Creator, then he'll be conscious about giving his rights to the creation. Right? Because he knows that Allah is going to judge him. He knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Almighty. He knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yani, huwa al-akbar, is the greatest. He knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for those who have obeyed Him Jannah, and He has prepared for those who have disobeyed Him the fire. Right? He knows that he's going to stand in front of Allah on the Day of Judgment and have to answer for what he had done inside of his life. So this will be the motivating factor for him to what? To have good character. So when we look at it from the real standpoint, right? Is it devoid from Tawheed? No, it is not. It's not devoid from Tawheed. It's all connected, right? So when we see this, and this is only a glimpse of this, because as you go through every chapter of Islamic science, you find this, right? For example, history. History is not devoid of Tawheed. We study history so we can see those believers who were successful, and we take example and we take admonition and lessons from why they were successful. We look at those nations who were destroyed from the disbelievers, right? And we see what led to their destruction. Now, those who were successful from the past, what made them successful? Those who were unsuccessful in the past, what made them unsuccessful, right? And you find that what? Those who were ultimately successful were the ones who implemented Tawheed. Those who implement Tawheed, those who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we see, even though they may have won some battles, they always lose the war. And we're speaking, proverbially, right? They always lose in the end. Because al-aqibah lil-muttaqeen, the end of the affair is for those who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the people of Tawheed, the people of Islam, the people of belief. You understand? So even from the standpoint of history, it's not, we look at it from the standpoint of just FYI, but we look at it from the standpoint of knowing the end result of those who implement Tawheed and the end result of those who were upon shirk. So it's not devoid of Tawheed. Okay? Those things that rectify a society which are linked to all of these things, they're not devoid of it, Tawheed. Okay? So we understand a little bit better now the short-sightedness of the people of innovation and the people of misguidance and those who are astray, those individuals who say the likes of the statement of you cannot rectify social issues and social problems with Tawheed. Of course you could, because that is how the prophets and the messengers rectify these things. That is how the prophets and the messengers brought rectification to their people, starting with what? At Tawheed. What kind of rectification could you bring to a people that is devoid of Tawheed, that is worth anything, has any merit? None whatsoever. So when a person understands this in reality, then he sees the short-sightedness, he sees the gross ignorance, he sees the gross misunderstanding of the likes of Shadeed Muhammad, who mentions the likes of these things. That Tawheed is not enough to deal with the social issues and the social problems, the family problems, how people deal with women, so on and so, whatever problems, drug problems, so on and so forth. Now, of course, Tawheed is the source and how these things are rectified. Ala kulli hal, we see from this very small book in which Imam bin Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala, he focusing on, it comprises of different subjects, of different topics, which shows that this is the da'wah of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. We just don't focus on one thing to the neglect of others, but we deal with that which is important and that which must be dealt with. Shaykh Abdul Razak goes on and he says, وَقَدْ رَتَّبَهُ رَحِمُهُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى تَرْتِيبًا نَافِعًا مُفِيدًا لِلْغَايَةِ. He says then that Imam bin Baz, he set the book up in such a way, he arranged the chapters in such a way that it is beneficial to the full extent. It is beneficial to the full extent. وَبَيَّنَ فِيهِ رَحِمَهُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى ضُرُورِيَاتِ الدِّينِ. And he explained therein those necessary matters that we have to know about the religion. وَالْوَاجِبَاتِ الْمُهِمَّاتِ الْمُتَّهِمُ معرفتها على كل مسلم ومسلمة. نعم المتهتم معرفته على كل مسلم ومسلمة. And he explained therein those obligatory affairs that are of extreme importance, those affairs that it is a must that every Muslim man and woman they know about them. It is a must that every Muslim man knows about it. Naam. The Shaykh goes on and he says, يعد هذا الكتاب منهجا رصينا في التعليم العوام. And that this book, it is a book that has been prepared, and the methodology is extremely sound, upright, outstanding, to teach the common people. وَتَلْقِينِهِمْ أُمُورَ الدِّيَانَةِ. And to teach them the affairs of the religion. وَتَعْرِيفِهِمْ بِضُرُورِيَاتِهَا. And to teach them those essential matters of their religion. وَمَا يَجِبُ عَلَيْهِمْ تعلمه من الأمور الديانة. And to teach them what is obligatory upon them to know from the affairs of the religion. What is obligatory upon them to know from the affairs of the religion. عقيدة وعبادة. In aqidah and in worship. In aqidah and in worship. نعم. The Shaykh, he says, والمستهدف فيه بالدرجة الأولى هم العوام. And the target audience, the main target audience of this book, then it is the common Muslim. This is the main target audience of this particular book, which again shows the extreme wisdom, and also it shows what? The way of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And that is what? That is that one, you speak to the audience upon a level in which they will understand. Right? But also, this means that your uslub or your it may change depending upon the audience. So not all classes will be for students of knowledge. but some will be directed to what? To a common people. So you don't talk to the common people like you would speak to the students of knowledge, and vice versa. But it shows the importance that the ulama, they place, that every aspect of the Muslim society they benefit. That every aspect of the Muslim society, every faction of the Muslim society, then they benefit. So Sheikh bin Baz, he put a lot of emphasis upon this book, which was directed to the everyday Muslim. And I'm stressing that to say that whether we see ourselves as students of knowledge, of everyday common Muslims, or what have you, this is something that all of us have to know. All of us have to know. So the things that are contained inside of this book, everybody has to make it their business to know them. Everybody has to know them. Now, the Shaykh, he says, نُصْحًا لَهُمْ, so as giving advice and being sincere advice unto them, وَتَعْلِيمًا لَهُمْ, and to teach them what? لِضُرُورِيَاتِ دِينِهِمْ, to teach them the essential affairs of their religion. وَلِهَذَا مِمَّا أُنَبِّهُ عَلَيْهِ في طليعة التعليق على هذه الرسالة. He said, and that which I want to just point out as relates to my explanatory notes as I'm going to give to this book. Now remember, this is Sheikh Abdul Razak speaking. Now he says that which I want to point out, for the one who's going over, or as relates to the explanatory notes that I'm going to give to this particular book, أن الأسلوب في شرحها سيكون أسلوبا مبسطا سهلا, that it will be a manner of speaking, and the verbiage and that which is that which will be utilized, it will be one which is simple, one which is easy to understand. That the expressions and that which will be verbalized in the verbiage of this explanation, that it will be that which will be easy, the wording of it easy, the verbiage of it easy, the expressions easy to be understood. بما يتناسب مع من ألفت هذه الرسالة من أجلهم, so that it matches and it is appropriate for the audience in which this book was written for. For the audience in which this book was written for, so that it meets the purpose of why the book was written. And this is extremely important, and the ulama, they point this out. This is a side point, but the ulama, they point this out because there are certain books that have been written by the ulama that are books that were meant for the common person, right? Or books that were meant for the beginning student of knowledge. And then you may have one, and they will come and they will give an explanation to this book, and the explanation will bring it outside of its target audience, because it was written for beginning students of knowledge. But then it's explained in such a way where only the intermediate or advanced students of knowledge will be able to benefit from. Whereas the beginning student of knowledge, he's left perplexed, he's confused, he doesn't know what's going on right now. He doesn't know what's going on, right? So it's important that when going over books and when studying things, that and explaining things, that we keep it on his level. If it's something that was meant and the target audience were the beginning students of knowledge, then we keep it as such. If it was for the common folks, then we keep it as such, because that is suitable and appropriate for the level in which the book was written for, and so as to address its target audience, وهم العوام, and they are the common everyday Muslim. The Shaykh, he says, وقد أجاد الشيخ رحمه الله تعالى في هذه الرسالة وأفاد. He said that the Shaykh, he has done an exceptional job as relates to this book and brought tremendous benefit. ونصح وأبلغ في النصيحة, and he has given tremendous advice, and he has really gone out of his way and extended himself and given us tremendously good, sincere advice. وكانت هذه الرسالة موطن الاهتمام ومحل عنايته إلى آخر حياته. He said in this book, and I want you to pay attention to this so that we never lose sight of the importance of trying to benefit the Muslims in general, but in specific the everyday Muslim, that we strive hard to benefit them, right? Because not everyone is going to be a student of knowledge. Not everyone is definitely not everyone is going to be a scholar. So there has to be an extreme concern for the common everyday Muslim, that we benefit them and we strive and we exert ourselves in benefiting them. And Imam bin Baz showed us a very good example as relates to this. Now, so we should strive to really step our game up and trying to benefit our brothers and sisters, whether that is by sharing with them pieces of knowledge, sharing with them reminders, sharing with them ahadith, so on and so forth, that we giving out books, and things of this nature, and really start trying to think along this way of trying to help to educate and to raise the level of education of the Muslims in our area. Now, so that means supporting those masajid of Ahlul Sunnah, those madaris, those schools of Ahlul Sunnah, where classes are going on, then we support them so that we can be aid to help the continuation of these classes. But also, if we could do things like put money together to purchase books for people and then pass out free books at Jumu'ah, right? Or taking an article from Ahlul Sunnah. Now, of course, we don't talk about spreading some Ahlul Sunnah. Now, and just printing it out. If it's just one page, printing it out and just distributing it for free at Jumu'ah. Now, person go down to Staples, Kinko's, whatever. Now, and if he only have $5, just give me $5 worth of copies. When it runs out, it runs out. Whoever gets, whoever doesn't, inshallah ta'ala, next time we'll give. But small efforts to help with the education of the everyday Muslim is very, very, very important, because is a lot of benefit that is contained therein, a lot of good deeds that is contained therein, and so on and so forth. Imam bin Baz was a tremendous example in this, because he paid a lot of attention to this book in particular until the end of his life. Until the end of his life, he paid a lot of attention to it. Now, the Shaykh, he says, وَلَا أَدَلَّ عَلَى ذَلِكَ مِنْ أَنَّ هَذِهِ الرِّسَالَةِ طُبِعَتْ فِي طبعتها الأخيرة في عام الذي توفي فيه رحمه الله تعالى. He says, and that which points to this, more so than anything else, is that the last edition of this book, it was printed in the year that the Shaykh died, rahimahullah ta'ala. The last edition of this book, it was printed the year the Shaykh died. Now, I don't want a person to understand and say, okay, well, they just, the publisher, I said last time he happened to publish the book, right? No. The whole time the Shaykh, he was touching it. The whole time he was touching the book, meaning, and the Shaykh, he explains. He says, وَعَلَيْهَا تَعْدِيلَاتٌ مِنْهُ رَحِمَهُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى. That this final edition, it has edits from him. Shaykh bin Baz, he did edits to the final edition, right? سواء في إضافة بعد الدروس. He said, either from the standpoint that he added some chapters. The Shaykh, he actually added some different points, some different lessons. He added lessons. أو في إضافة والتكميل لبعد الدروس. And other things, he completed other chapters. So some lessons he added some lessons, and other lessons he brought additions to them and completed them. Now, he brought some additions. He found there were other things that could be said that the Muslims could benefit from, so he added to certain chapters, right? He added and completed certain chapters, and other chapters he just brought brand new chapters. Now, which is subhanallah, that is the most beautiful thing. The Shaykh, he says, وَقَدْ أَضَافَ بَعْدَ الدُّرُوسِ الْجَدِيدَةِ. He said, and he added some new lessons. وَكَمَلَ فِي بَعْض. And some of them he completed them. وَعَدَّلَ شَيْئًا مَا فِي التَّرْتِيبِ. And he also, in addition to completing certain chapters and adding other chapters, he also edited the order of the book, the chapters, right? And the order in which the chapters come, he edited the order of the chapters and the order of how the knowledge was being presented. So he also edited the ordering of the book, right? Al-Mu'tamid, and this is very important we understand this, the Shaykh, he says, and that which we are going to rely upon for sharhi, inside of my explanation, لهذه الرسالة هو على طبعة الأخيرة التي صدرت في عام الذي توفي فيه رحمه الله تعالى. He says, so thus the edition that I'm going to rely on and base my explanation off of is that edition, that final edition that was printed the year in which the Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, he passed away in. That this is the edition that Shaykh Abdul Razak is going to base his explanation on, and that is the final edition, the one where the final edits were made to it before the death of the Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, which again is a tremendous lesson. The Shaykh didn't write this book and then that was it, but he kept going back to it to enhance it, to make it better, to make it better, to make it better. And this is an illustration of the way in which and how much he used to care for the Muslims and how much concern he had for the Muslims, rahimahullah ta'ala. And anyone who knows anything about the biography of Shaykh bin Baz, they will see this. The Shaykh was extremely generous, was extremely kind. He used to always worry about the people and how they were getting on. Now he would strive his best to feed people and so on and so forth. So I advise people to really try to go back and to find the biography of Shaykh bin Baz and to read it, and you will find the Shaykh, subhanallah, was an extremely generous man, was one who had a great concern for the Muslims as a whole. وفي هذا دلالة على مكانة هذه الرسالة عند الشيخ رحمه الله تعالى. He says, and with this we see the status and how important this book was to the Shaykh رحمه الله تعالى, وعنايته بها إلى الآخر حياته, and also the concern in which he gave to this book until the end of his life. وأرجو الله أن يكون في هذا الشرح شيء من الوفاء لهذا الإمام الجليل والمساهمة في هذا الباب العظيم. And also he says, I hope that in this explanation then I can bring something that will complement what this tremendously generous and noble Imam has done, and make some kind of contribution to this particular topic and this particular subject. وأسأل الله عز وجل أن يرزقنا أجمعين العلم النافع وعمل الصالح والتوفيق لما يحبه ويرضاه من السديد الأقوال وصالح الأعمال. وصلى الله عليه وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. He says, and I ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He provide all of us with beneficial knowledge and with righteous actions, good deeds, and that He gives us all the success in doing that which He loves and that which He is pleased with, and that we are from being upright inside of our statements and goodly and wholesome and righteous inside of our actions. And may the peace and blessings be upon our Prophet Muhammad. May the salah and the salam be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, upon his family and upon his companions. And then the Shaykh, he concluded his introduction with that. Inshallah ta'ala, we would like to take something from the introduction of Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah ta'ala with the notes of Shaykh Abdul Razak. If we have time to finish, we will try to finish so as not make it too long. If it's getting to the side where it's going to be too long, then we'll save it and add it to the next class. But in any event, without further delay, قال الشيخ عبد العزيز بن باز رحمه الله تعالى, Shaykh bin Baz رحمه الله تعالى, he said, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين وصلى الله وسلم على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد، فهذه كلمات موجزة في بيان البعض ما يجب أن يعرفها العامة عن دين الإسلام سميتها الدروس المهمة لعامة الأمة أسأل الله أن ينفع بها المسلمين وأن يتقبلها مني إنه جواد كريم. The Imam bin Baz rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, in the name of Allah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most merciful, the one who his mercy is consistent and continuous. All praise and thanks belong to Allah, the Lord of all that exists. The final of the affair, then it will be for those who fear Allah, those people of taqwa and piety. And the salah of Allah and the salam be upon his slave and his messenger, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and upon his family and upon all of his companions, all of them. As to proceed, verily these are some small summarized words. These are some summarized words explaining some of the affairs that the general masses of the Muslims, they have to know about the religion of Al-Islam. So thus I have named it important lessons for the common Muslims. And I ask that Allah benefit by way of this book the Muslims, and that He accepts it from me. Verily He is the most gracious, the most compassionate, and the most noble, Naam. Shaykh Abdul Razak, he says, فهذه مقدمة بين يدي. He said that this بين يدي هذه الرسالة. Naam. He said that this introduction that is in the beginning of this book, this introduction that Imam bin Baz rahimahullah ta'ala he had brought at the beginning of this book, Naam, استهلها رحمه الله تعالى بحمد الله والثناء عليه جل وعلا بما هو أهله. He says that he began this book by sending praise and thanks and glorification upon Allah Jalla wa'ala, of which Allah is deserving of. وبيان أن العاقبة الحميدة والمال الكريمة في الدنيا والآخرة لأهل التقوى. And he also explained that the beautiful end and the final reckoning and the final affair, which will be praiseworthy, and the good and outstanding result, the noble result inside of the dunya and in the akhirah, that it will be for those, the people of taqwa, the people who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the final of the affair and the most praiseworthy station and the outcome result will be for who? Will be for those who have fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهُمْ, and these individuals, those who have fear of Allah, those people who have taqwa and piety, مُلَازِمُونَ لِطَاعَةِ اللَّهِ, they are those who they are consistent upon the obedience of Allah. الْمُجَانِبُونَ لِمَعَاصِيهِ, they are those who stay away from and they avoid disobeying Him جَلَّ وَعَلَى. الْمُؤْتَمِرُونَ بِأَوَامِرِهِ الْمُنْتَهُونَ عَنْ نَوَاهِيهِ, they are those who they do that which they are commanded to do, and they stay away from that which they have been prohibited from. الْعَامِلُونَ لِنَيْلِ الرَّضَاءِ وَالْفَوْزِ بِكَرَامَتِهِ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى يَوْمَ اللَّقَاءِ, they are those who they work and they strive to work in such a manner so as to gain His pleasure, so that they may be successful by His generosity Tabarak wa ta'ala on the day in which they meet Him, Yawm al-Laqahu, the day in which they meet Allah Azza wa Jal. All of this could be understood from what? From this sentence, Al-Aqiba lil-Muttaqeen. Na'am, Al-Aqiba lil-Muttaqeen. And this shows you how the ulama, they don't see what we see. A person may have read this and said, okay, the result is for those who have fear of Allah. And that's it, they kept it moving. But subhanAllah, look at what Shaykh Abdul Razaki was able to extract just from this sentence. And again, this is keeping in light with the spirit of the book and being summarized. So he just leaves it like that, it doesn't go on. Yeah, but there's more that can be extracted from this and that could be said about it. Also, وَبِالصَّلَاةِ, he also began the book by making the salat wa salam ala Rasul al-Mujtaba wa Nabi al-Mustafa. He sent the salah, he began the book by sending the salah and the salam upon the messenger who has been chosen, upon the chosen prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Khiratillah tabarak wa ta'ala min khalqih. He is the best of Allah's creation. He is the best of Allah's creation. Wa safwati ibad, and he is the finest. He is the finest and the best of the slaves. Salawatullah wa barakatuhu alayhi. May the salawat of Allah and His blessings be upon him, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. ثم بين أن هذا موجزة. And then he explained, after saying that, then he explained that this book is a book that is summarized. It's a summarized book. ليس فيها طول ممل ولا اختصار مخل. It doesn't have, it's not long-winded so as to bring about boredom, and it is not short where it's missing stuff, where it's deficient, right? بل فيها إيجاز, but it has mentioned everything in a sufficient manner, in a summarized way. وسهولة عبارة, and it has easy expressions, easy articulations and verbiage. واقتصار على ما يحقق المقصود بإذن الله تعالى بإذن الله تبارك وتعالى. And it suffices in mentioning just enough so that that which is intended is conveyed. It mentions what is needed so that that which is intended is conveyed, and then it doesn't go beyond that. Naam. The Shaykh, he says, وخصها, and we see this في بيان البعض ما يجب أن يعرفه العام. And he has specified this book to deal with explaining some of those things in which the common Muslim has to know. من الواجبات, meaning from the obligations, الواجبات الدين, وضروريات, from the obligations of the religion, and those things which have to be known by necessity. ولا سيما ما لا يعذر المرء بجهله. And this is very important, especially those affairs in which it is no one is excused to be ignorant about them. So this book right here, what the Shaykh he mentions therein, these are from the affairs that no one is excused as relates to being ignorant about them. Everyone has to know about them. So this is why I stress that we take this class very, very, very seriously. No matter what level we may think that we're on, we take this class seriously as our litmus test. To see where we are really. To see where we are really. And if we are where we think we are, then alhamdulillah, praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So thus this will be for you a reminder, and a reminder benefits the believers. If we're not where we think we are, then this is an opportunity for us to get what we need, and to step our game up, and to increase ourselves and better ourselves, inshallah ta'ala. The Shaykh says, وَمَعَ بَعْدَ الْمَسَائِلَ الَّتِي هِيَ المستحبات وليس من الفرائض ولكنها من الأمور المهمة التي ينبغي على عامة الأمة أن يعنوا بها. He says, and granted, some of the subject matter in which that are mentioned inside of this book is from those things that are recommended. He said, however, and they're not obligatory. He said, however, they are still from those things that are very important, in which the ummah in which the common folks from the ummah, the common Muslim, he has to pay great attention to. وسماها, and the Imam thus he named it الدروس المهمة لعامة الأمة, the important lessons for the common Muslim. وهو اسم مطابق للمسمى, and it is a book that is suitable for what is describing. It's suitable for what is describing. وعنوان موافق للمعنى الذي اشتملت عليه هذه الرسالة, and it is a name that it adequately and correctly describes the meaning of that which is contained inside of this book. Now, it is a perfect name for this particular book due to that which is contained therein. Very suitable name. وهي رتبت ترتيبا بديعا على هيئة الدروس, أي درس الأول الثاني الثالث إلى آخره. نعم, he says, and it was put together in a very good way. So and upon the manner of lessons. So thus it says the first lesson, second lesson, third lesson, to the end of it. Now, which gives us like little chunks that we can take and we can really hold on to and focus in on before we go on to the next, which is very important. The statement of the Imam al-Muhimma, and important, التي في غاية الأهمية, meaning important, meaning those things that are of extreme importance. مما يحتاج إليه عوام المسلمين, that which the general folk of the Muslim they need it. ونوع المصنف مضامين هذه الرسالة, and the Imam he has brought various topics together to comprise this book. There's various topics that have been brought together. فبين فيها ما يتعلق بجانب الاعتقاد, so he has explained therein that which deals with i'tiqad, that which deals with creed. وما يتعلق بجانب العبادات, and he has explained therein that which deals with worship and deals with the rules and regulations and things that are connected to worship. لا سيما المباني الخمسة للإسلام, especially dealing with the 5 pillars of al-Islam. Now, special importance, especially dealing with the 5 pillars of al-Islam. وبين فيها أيضا الأخلاق التي ينبغي أن يتحلى بها المسلم, and he also explained therein some character, some mannerisms that the Muslim has to adorn himself with. وحذر فيها من الكبائر الذنوب, and he has warned in it from the major sins. وعددت الجملة منها, and he has enumerated some of these major sins. نعم. وحذر أشد التحذير من الشرك الأكبر الناقض للدين والمباين للملة, and he has warned with an extreme warning. He has warned with an extreme warning from major shirk, الشرك الأكبر, major shirk, that which will negate an individual's religion, that which will negate and void an individual's religion, expel him from al-Islam, and that which is contrary to our way, contrary to the deen of al-Islam. فهي الرسالة, so thus it is a book, حوت مضامين عظيمة مهمة تمس حاجة عوام المسلمين إليها. So thus it is a book that it comprises of subjects, important, extremely valuable and crucial subjects in which the Muslims they are in vital need of it. And then the Imam he ended by saying, أسأل الله أن ينفع بها المسلمين. He says, and I ask that Allah benefit by way of this book the Muslims, وأن يتقبلها مني, and that He accepts it from me. إنه جواد كريم, verily He is the most gracious, the most generous, He is the most al-Kareem. He says, هذه دعوة, Shaykh Abdul Razak, he says, this supplication is tremendous, عظيمة, is tremendous. جمعت بين السؤال الله تبارك وتعالى النفع بهذه الرسالة وأن يتقبلها منه بقبول حسن. He says that he comprised and he brought together, he combined asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to benefit others by way of this book, and at the same time that Allah accepts it from him with a good accepting. وَمِن فَضْلِ اللَّهِ سبحانه وتعالى ومنه أن هذه الرسالة لاقت قبولا واسعا. He says, and from the bounty of Allah and from the blessings of Allah is that this book, it has met an extreme wide acceptance. It has met an extreme acceptance. نعم. فعقدت المجالس الكبيرة الكثيرة للمدارستها. So this book, you will find it that in many settings have been reserved to studying it. Like this one, case in point. نعم. Many settings have been reserved to studying it. واتخذت منهجا في التعليم العوام وتلقينهم أمور الديانة. And it has been taken as a book that is used and as a methodology in teaching the common folk from the Muslims and conveying to them the affairs of their religion. وترجمت إلى كثير من اللغات. And it has been translated into many different languages. وهذا كله, and all of this من الأمارات على قبول إن شاء الله الذي جعله الله سبحانه وتعالى لهذه الرسالة. And all of this is signs inshallah ta'ala نعم of the acceptance and how Allah ta'ala has made this book something which is accepted by the people. So then Shaykh Abdul Razak, he concludes by saying, وأسأل الله جل وعلا أن يجزي مؤلفها خير الجزاء. He says that I ask Allah that He reward the author of this book with a tremendous and bountiful reward. وأن يثقل بها موازينه يوم لقاء الله تبارك وتعالى, and that He makes this book heavy in His scales the day in which He meets Allah تبارك وتعالى. وأن ينفعنا أجمعين بها, and that He bless all of us by way of this book. وأسأله جل وعلا, he says, and I ask Allah جل وعلا عز وجل أن ينفع بهذا الشرح, that He benefits by way of this explanation al-Muslimin, the Muslims, that He benefits by way of this explanation the Muslims. وأن يتقبله مني بقبول حسن, and that He accepts it from me with a good acceptance. فإنه تبارك وتعالى سميع قريب مجيب, because verily He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the all-hearer, He is the one who is near, He is the one who is the answerer of the supplications. And then the Shaykh, he goes on to go into ad-dars al-awwal, the first lesson, and that is dealing with Surah Al-Fatiha. That is dealing with Surah Al-Fatiha wal-qisar al-suwar. Surah Al-Fatiha wal-qisar al-suwar. Surah Al-Fatiha and some small chapters. Surah Al-Fatiha and some small chapters. As we are already familiar with this book, many of us, just FYI, it will be mandatory that all of us, we memorize and or review. We memorize, for those who have memorized all of these chapters, and or we review the chapters of the Qur'an that are mentioned by the Shaykh, by the Imam bin Baz rahimahullah ta'ala inside of this book. So I want everyone to memorize every single surah that Shaykh bin Baz says we have to memorize and to study. Now, memorize. So jump on the memorization now, jump on the review now, inshallah ta'ala. because definitely by the time that we finish from this chapter, then I want all of the surah memorized bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. Na'am. So let that be our focus for memorizing, let that be our focus for review, inshallah ta'ala. And we will leave getting into Surah Al-Fatiha and the tafsir of Surah Al-Fatiha to the next class, inshallah ta'ala. فنكتفي بهذا القدر وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وجزاكم الله خيرا.